The third time I met her, she said, do me a favor. Take them shoes, take them socks off, and let me smell them toes. And I said, no. You know? No. Because she was a nose in between the toes. Kind of. She's a deep, deep toe smeller. You know? And I was like, no. You're nasty, Queen Elizabeth. You're nasty. So I'll tell you about the fourth time I met her. Hey, how you guys doing? This is Hannibal, 6 through 10. We're doing episode 9. We're not going to talk much. Video starts right now. They got a new Fabius Maximus flag. The last one was... I'm not liking it. Oh, maybe this means he's going to fight him. Maybe this is the war flag. Okay, sorry.
It's late summer, 217 BC. As the fires across the Arga-Falanus Valley died down after months of Carthaginian raiding, the locals returned to their burned towns and cities, struggling to bring their lives back to normal. Having outwitted Fabius, Hannibal escaped the valley. And now there was real fear in the Roman Senate as the Carthaginian general marched north towards Rome itself.
Nine and 10. Okay. So now he's actually going to Rome. Okay.
Escaping the Arga-Falanus Valley with his army and plunder intact again highlighted Hannibal's genius. And as the Carthaginian army now marched north along the Volturnus River, fears in Rome were reignited that the attack on the city was imminent. But despite the road to Rome being open for the second time, Hannibal marshaled his army back into the Apennine Mountains. His string of victories was not enough to secure alliances in Italy, and the Carthaginian general knew that without a firm foothold in the plains of Campania, he needed to establish winter quarters in a better strategic position. Heading back east to his old campaigning ground near the Adriatic coast was a prudent decision. Encumbered with plunder and herds of cattle, the Carthaginians moved slowly, cutting a swathe of destruction along their line of march, ravaging farms and property, collecting provisions and prisoners as they moved, unopposed by Fabius. While this unchallenged destruction of Roman lands and the prior escape from the Arga-Falanus Valley were the two latest embarrassing incidents that caused outrage against Fabius in the Senate, it was in fact his strategy that preserved the Roman army from potential destruction. Thanks to Fabius, the Republic stayed in the fight, which arguably kept their Italian allies from joining Hannibal. Yet, due to his cautious war plans, Fabius's popularity in Rome was crumbling, and his allies in the Senate found it impossible to rally political support around him. It also didn't help that, by now, news spread throughout Rome that Fabius's property and lands were spared during Carthaginian raiding of the Arga-Falanus Valley, which cast further doubts about him.
I was just about to say, do you think that they did that on purpose? To make it seem like, look, he's not attacking us, right? So Hannibal probably felt like he could beat him. So, hey, don't mess with his stuff. Make him look bad. Make him make him push for war. You know, put the pressure on him. It's pretty good.
The Roman general tried in vain to improve his reputation by selling parts of his property to ransom Roman prisoners from Hannibal, after hearing that the Senate would not fund their release.
Wow.
But despite the unabating criticism against him and demands for a more aggressive stance, he kept to the Fabian strategy, refusing to be drawn into a battle not of his choosing, and continued to shadow Hannibal. His scorched earth policy had a very limited effect, as many citizens refused to burn their towns and crops, but it did manage to hamper the movement of the Carthaginian army, which did not have a secure supply chain and had to live off the land. Meanwhile, Hannibal reached a place he deemed suitable for his winter quarters, the town of Geronium.
Geronium, huh?
You're the guy with the gun, the person who would do anything to protect the ones you love. But did you know you could go to jail for simply doing the right thing to keep your family safe?
Yes, I do.
It is unclear if Geronium was taken by force when Hannibal's terms were rejected, or if he took possession of the town after the inhabitants fled. Either way, Hannibal encamped just outside the town and had his troops repair the collapsed wall, as well as surround the town with a trench and a palisade, turning Geronium into a fortified granary for the Carthaginian army, where provisions and livestock were stored. The sick and wounded recovered in the camp, as thousands fanned out to forage the fertile plain to the west, while others pastured the cattle and horses on the hillsides to the east. With enough provisions to last until spring, in a strong defensive position, with several roads offering multiple mountain crossings into Apulia, Geronium was the perfect place to winter with an army. Meanwhile, in the foothills across the valley, the Romans arrived some 3 days later and began encamping. But the dissatisfaction in the Senate finally boiled over, forcing Fabius to depart for Rome. Officially, he journeyed to the capital to observe religious duties. However, the more likely reason for his absence from the front line was to confront his critics and explain his actions, in an effort to salvage any support he could for his campaign. While the political discussion raged on, back in the Roman camp near Geronium, Minucius assumed a more aggressive stance. As second in command, he was left in charge of the army with orders to follow the Fabian strategy. But, eager to put pressure on Hannibal, he set up camp in the plain, from where he sent out parties of cavalry and velites to hunt down the Carthaginian foragers. Although most of the foragers escaped unharmed, Hannibal moved quickly to protect his foraging grounds by sending 2,000 Libyans to occupy the ridge overlooking the Roman camp. And just to the south, he established a temporary camp where he stationed 2/3 of his army. Eager to square up against the enemy, Minucius sent the heavy infantry towards the Carthaginian camp, while his light infantry and cavalry went for the ridge. This seemingly created a problem for Hannibal. Not only was he outnumbered, but he left his cavalry in the main camp. Whether he did this intentionally to appear weaker and trick the Romans into attacking, or because the horses needed resting, he now lacked the mobility needed for the clash against Minucius. With superior numbers and mobility on their side, the Romans took the ridge. Seeing his chance to put more pressure on the Carthaginians, Minucius moved his camp to the top of the captured hill. Expecting another attack, Hannibal restricted all foraging operations, keeping the troops in a state of readiness within the forward camp. But Minucius stayed put, and after a few days of inaction, the Carthaginian general finally broke the stalemate by sending troops to forage in ever-increasing numbers each day, until eventually some 4,000 men were committed. Dispersing so many troops in the surrounding countryside, while already being outnumbered, begs the question, did Hannibal so desperately need provisions for the winter and was forced to forage? Or did he want to weaken his position, perhaps even appear incompetent, to provoke Minucius into fighting and winning a few skirmishes, with the aim of luring the Roman general into a trap once he became overconfident? Whatever the case, Minucius answered in force. He led the heavy infantry against a Carthaginian camp, while sending his cavalry and light infantry through the back gate to hunt down the foragers. The skirmish was a bloody affair, with the Romans getting the better of the engagement, killing many of Hannibal's foragers.
If his plan is to appear weak and all that stuff, okay. But his men are dying. You're not going to do something stupid to get your men killed. So I think, unless something changes, I think this was a stupid idea.
Realizing it was time to regroup, Hannibal marched back to his main camp. Exaggerated accounts of this victory caused widespread rejoicing in Rome. Senators and citizens alike believed that they finally had a commander who can defeat Hannibal. Hailed for his success, a law was hastily passed that made Minucius co-dictator, which was effectively a return to having two senior magistrates in charge. But things did not go smoothly.
No, they didn't.
Fabius urged caution, while Minucius wanted to take aggressive action. Due to persistent arguments over strategy, Fabius proposed that they command the army on alternate days, or split the army into two independent commands. Minucius decided to take 4 legions and establish his own camp.
Shut up, coward.
Just as...
So I'm not 100% into Fabius's plan as to why he's doing it. I can only think it's because his men aren't... They were young. They were recruits. He just didn't trust them in battle. But I think he just... Yeah. Okay, he's looking for the spot of his choosing. But I think that he's just extremely intimidated by Hannibal. And so, because of that, I don't know if he would ever make that first move. Not saying that that it wouldn't happen. I just think that he doesn't have the military that he's confident enough with. That's what I'm trying to say. He doesn't have the military confident enough where he could take that shot. And this other guy, Meninkus, I think that's how you say his name. I just got a feeling his last name or first name or whatever should be changed to Death, because I got a feeling he's going to be brutally murdered here by Hannibal's people.
The sun rose over the plain beneath Geronium. The guards woke up Minucius. Hannibal was just outside the camp. For the second time, Hannibal positioned himself on the ridge, from where he could observe all activities in the Roman camp.
So, wait a minute. Didn't he move up into there? So he must have retreated, and they had a group, they had I'll say a fort, but it wasn't. They had a thing down there, and he left. So he went back to his unit. They didn't fortify anything up on that hill?
Minucius was not about to allow him to control the engagement. The Romans advanced confidently, having previously driven Hannibal back from the same ridge and forced him to retreat to his main camp.
I'm going to call it now. there's probably men dressed up like a stone wall waiting back here to lure out an attack. That's just what he does.
Minucius was now determined to finish the job. But this time, Hannibal was ready.
Of course he was.
As the Roman light infantry crashed into the Carthaginian line, it seemed like their push will again drive back the enemy. But just as his men began giving ground, Hannibal reinforced the line with troops hiding just beyond the ridge. Minucius responded by sending the Roman and allied cavalry up the hill. From his vantage point, it seemed that the Carthaginians have just about enough men to hold off his light infantry, and he was determined to break the stalemate. But as the Roman cavalry closed in, Hannibal called upon his Numidian and Spanish riders, who poured over the ridge. What seemed until now like another skirmish turned into a proper battle. Outnumbered, the Roman line quickly lost ground and was pushed back down the hill. With his cavalry fully engaged, Minucius was now unable to scout the battlefield for potential ambushes. Nevertheless, he ordered his legions forward, fearing that his troops in the front will get overrun. However, what the Roman general didn't realize was that he was sending his men straight into a trap.
Here it is.
Are you a low-income American on food stamps or Medicaid? If so, you are now eligible to receive a free...
We're about to find out that he dressed up soldiers as trees and bushes and shrubbery and grass, and they're about to pop out and start murdering people.
During the previous night, Hannibal led 5,000 Libyans and up to 1,000 cavalry, dispersing his men in groups of 200 to 300, ordering them to conceal themselves in the ravines, hollows, stream beds and tree lines to the north and south of the ridge.
Yeah.
The skill and discipline of Hannibal's troops was evident in the flawless execution of this potentially dangerous operation. And now, as Minucius's heavy infantry advanced up the hill, they collided with the overwhelmed Roman cavalry and light infantry.
You think this will drive Fabius out to help? Or do you think he's going to be like, screw that guy?
Losing their cohesion. At that moment, Hannibal signaled his concealed troops to attack. From the mountain slopes across the river to the north and the ravines to the south, Libyan infantry and cavalry leapt forward. Some 3 kilometers away, Fabius could see that another disaster was looming. Left with no choice but to help the embattled troops, he ordered his men forward. Back in the valley, thousands of Roman troops were being mauled in yet another perfectly executed ambush. The sequence and timing of events over the past 24 hours, all planned and orchestrated by Hannibal, so as to lure Minucius into sending his cavalry early on in the battle, thereby depriving him of the ability to scout the vast battlefield, which prevented him from discovering the hidden Carthaginian troops, ultimately resulting in his entire army being ambushed. By now, many Romans gave up and fled, fearing another full encirclement. Seeing Fabius marching down towards the valley, Hannibal reportedly said, "That cloud on the mountains has broken into a storm at last." Finishing off those who weren't able to escape, Hannibal ordered his troops not to pursue, turning his army back towards the main camp. He did not want a battle of attrition against a numerically superior enemy, half of which were rested troops, while his own troops grew tired after hours of fighting. Having defeated the Romans yet again, Hannibal began settling in for the winter at Geronium. Meanwhile, the humiliated Minucius returned supreme command to Fabius, hailing him as his father as a show of respect. Fabius, for his part, reinstated Minucius as his second in command, treating him with utmost consideration. As the year drew to a close, the Roman army stayed at a respectful distance from the Carthaginians, though sporadic skirmishes between scouting parties and foragers continued throughout the winter.
I understand why Fabius wants to fight him on his own ground. Because if Hannibal's trying to lure you out, basically like sashaying in front of you, saying, "Oh, look at me. Oh, I could easily be beaten." It's like, yeah, don't take the bait. And he throws a lot of bait. And unfortunately, there's a lot of stupid people that take that bait. And I understand why Fabius is like, "No, I'm not doing it. If he's throwing bait, I'm not interested. I want to catch him off guard." But it's hard, because if you got to question, am I really catching him off guard, or am I catching him looking the other way on purpose, with his back to me on purpose? He's a really tough guy to
Meanwhile,
counter.
in Spain, the Roman strategy of putting more pressure on Carthage continued, as the Scipio brothers pushed south of the Ebro for the first time, successfully persuading a handful of Iberian tribes to join the Roman cause. This caused grave concern for the Carthaginian authorities, who sought to restore their popularity with the tribes by organizing the return of the hostage children belonging to the tribal nobility, until now held at Saguntum to keep the Iberians loyal. The Punic commander of the city entrusted an influential Iberian noble, Abelox, with returning the hostage children to their parents. However, in a stroke of luck for the Romans, Abelox instead brought the children to them as gifts and was handsomely rewarded. The Scipio brothers subsequently took it upon themselves to return the children to several tribal leaders, taking credit for their rescue. This resulted in massive support for the Roman cause from the Iberian tribes between Saguntum and the Ebro. Back in Italy, Fabius's 6-month term expired, and the Senate did not renew his dictatorial powers, giving temporary command to consuls Servius Geminus and Marcus Attilis Regulus until the following elections resumed in just a few months' time. And now, as the year 216 BC rolled around, a Roman army of unprecedented size was being raised, as the Senate prepared to mount a major effort to engage and destroy Hannibal once and for all. Credit goes to our awesome patrons who make videos.
So that was part 9 and 10 kind of smashed together, and it was really good. And this is a really good series. I'm digging it a lot. I'm going to end it here because I'm about to watch the Hall of Fame game and have a good hour's chill time before I have... No, I don't have an hour's chill time. I'm going in early. It's like 4 days. I think I put in about 45 hours so far. Been busy. All right. Well, I'm going to end this here, and this has been awesome. Hannibal's been awesome. Have a good day. Have a good night.